We got 30 minutes, and there's so much to talk about, so we're going to do brief introductions down the line, and then we're going to get right into it.
Michael Bayle, I'm the Senior Vice President and the GM of Mobile at ESPN.
Philippe Browning, CBS Interactive, part of a team that markets, distributes, and monetizes sites and applications across a broad variety of content.
I'm Mark Donovan. I'm a Senior Vice President of Mobile at comScore.
I'm Brandon Lucas, GM of Mobile for Black Entertainment Television.
Great. And Brandon, why don't we start with you? We'll come back down the line, and if everybody can talk a little bit about what they're doing sort of in the mobile app space, your range of products, what you've been distributing, maybe even how long you've been distributing apps, just to give some context to the audience here.
We've been in the app space now for about 2 years. Our first app to market was about 2 years ago, so we felt like we were a little bit late to the game. And we decided that if we're going to do an app, we're not just going to do a generic kind of TV network app. We're going to go really deep around one show, which is our live daily music countdown show, 106 in Park. And that was really a game changer for us because we did some really cool things that had never been done before. We gamified voting in a way that made it fun and drove mad levels of engagement. We created this one feature where if you have the app open while you're watching the show, you might get a phone call live from the host if they tap your dot on this map, and then you actually get to become a part of the show. And Viacom actually filed a patent for that. So that was our first salvo into the app space. And then last year we launched apps around our award shows, the BET Awards and the Hip Hop Awards. And now we're gearing up to do another app around our BET Award show this year.
That's great. Mark, you can share where you guys are measuring and following the space.
Yeah, I mean, our focus at comScore is to measure anything digital and let our clients understand what that means for their business and provide them with insight. In the case of mobile, we've been focused on measuring mobile since 2004, when it seemed like a crazy idea to do something like put a camera in a phone. Why would you do that? And since then, we've developed a broad array of data assets and products that measure, track the market for smartphones, tablets, measure apps. This is all reported out on a monthly basis. Advertisers, agencies, brands look at this data to understand where their consumers are, where the audience is. And it's been a fantastic ride just watching this hockey stick that we've seen. And I think per Simon's comments, we're not even close to this thing reaching its potential yet.
Drew, I want to just echo Drew and say thanks to Flurry. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces and learn some things about new companies as well. Not sure if I want to introduce my wife to Posh, but maybe. probably should. So CBS obviously is known as a broadcast brand, but as a collection of internet and digital content, we publish across sports, news, entertainment, technology with our CNET brand, music with Last.fm and Metro Lyrics. We have been involved in mobile from the start of the new distribution platforms, both iTunes and Android. I think for us, one of the early game changers was our first March Madness Live product, where we streamed components of March Madness live to device. At the time, it seemed like an enormous technology hurdle, but we did it. It was very successful. It led to a joint partnership with Turner over time to do that, and ESPN and others have leapt into that space nicely with things like Watch. We publish both free applications as well as paid products like 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes on iPad is a great example of something that's offered as a mobile item that has components that aren't available on air or online. And in that instance, we've been digitizing the back catalog of all the 60 Minutes items and offering them up as a component of the paid product. And interestingly, I've met kids in New York just randomly who say, oh, I use 60 Minutes to do research for my high school project. So I think that we touch in ways that we didn't even ever foresee.
That's great.
And ESPN is predominantly known as a television company. We're in 100 million households, but for digital purposes, we also, with comScore, have suggested we have an audience north of 60 million. And what's unique about that, about 20 million of those fans only use us via mobile. And our strategy with mobile is both mobile web and apps. They're about 50-50. And within apps, we had about 40, 45 apps in the App Store about a year and a half ago, including Spelling Bee and Snowcross and really meaningful properties. And we've condensed that now to only 5 or 6 apps around our core focal point with fans, with live content, which is scores and watching ESPN, being able to get that content that's on TV into your devices, whether they be tablets or mobile.
Yeah, and so let's talk about, let's start top line on the platforms. Is everybody, I'm assuming, developing for iOS and Android, those two for sure? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
Yes. And then where are we with Windows? in regards to developing apps and other mobile products that may be compatible with Windows?
Well, first of all, Android is our largest user base right now. It's probably 60 to 70% of our users. So really, Android and iPhone and iPod Touch are really where we focus our efforts. We don't do a lot of optimization on iPad because that hasn't gained traction in the same way Windows phones have not really taken off yet, although we're watching it, and if our audience starts to adopt them, then we'll think about supporting it.
Any comments on that about
Well, I was going to go back to
Yeah,
that.
I'd say from a market perspective, our focus is on measuring every platform and understanding what's happening there. I mean, certainly what we see in terms of the trajectory is it's really been a great few years for Android and Apple. We're at a point now where over half of all Americans that have a phone have a smartphone. Over half of those are Android devices. About 35% are iPhones. And what we've seen, frankly, is those two platforms keep on growing. We've seen every other platform slip month over month over the last year.
Yeah. So we certainly with our broadcast brands, we go for platform ubiquity. So we are a partner with Microsoft, and we have our content on the Surface tablet, and we like the way it looks. And certainly, obviously, it doesn't have the scale yet that the others that you mentioned do, but we're happy to play there, and we're excited about it. I would say the place where we haven't fully dived in yet, which we're really looking at closely now, is Android tablet. Personally, I'm a big believer that we're at the very beginning of an explosion of Android tablets, and I'm excited about what's going to be happening there in the next year.
Yeah, and we're at an inflection point. Majority of traffic's Apple, Android's just behind. We do have a partnership with Microsoft for Windows 8 for tablet Surface as well, and then we work with Nokia for Windows 7 and now Windows 8 phone.
Great, and we have BlackBerry OS 10 coming up here in the next 4-6 weeks. Where are we with that? Any traction at all? Is there interest? Just your approach and philosophy towards BlackBerry at this point?
I've actually, I'm having a really interesting conversation with our sales folks internally, and they're hearing from one of RIM's agencies that our apps can be ported over relatively easy to BlackBerry 10. So I'm just doing some research on that right now.
Yeah, our flagship app, Score Center, will be there at launch on January 30th with BB10.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Great.
BB10 could be a surprise. RIM has nowhere to go but up, so.
Well, let's go back on the tablet thing. And Mark, I'd like to start with you because we were talking earlier about the growth in tablets and how you saw the smartphone growth as a hockey stick, but you're seeing the tablet growth even more steep of a curve. So share with us sort of what's been happening in the tablet space.
Yeah, I mean, we've never seen anything like the velocity of tablet penetration and tablet ownership. I mean, smartphones have been in a hockey stick since 2007, 2008. Three things happened then: the iPhone, Android a year later, and the App Store. But it still took the U.S. market 7 to 8 years to get to like this 40 million people owned a smartphone. We got there with tablets in 24 months, and that was driven certainly largely by iPad, but also we see the kind of number 2 maker of tablets. I think they're kind of under-recognized here is Amazon. So we're seeing tablets, I think, fundamentally change the way people have a relationship with digital content, and tablets and phones together are disrupting, I would agree with Simon, pretty much everything, but a place that's really happening is the home and the living room. The kind of a sub-theme of this conference is mobile first. As Michael alluded to, there's also mobile only. I mean, we see in our data, and we've worked very hard to build the first kind of deduplicated view of the audience across these different platforms. Today, about 7% of people are only interacting with digital content on their mobile phone. They don't have a PC. They're not using a PC. And they may also have a tablet. So it's a huge, huge shift that I think we're really don't even know what this means, but it's certainly not underhyped.
Yeah, and I'll open up for the three of you just in terms of developing for tablets specifically. Kind of where are you with that, Brandon? You shared a little bit, but also, what's the difference in consumer behavior that you've seen so far as regards to smartphones versus tablets and engaging with your content? Open it up.
I'm going to let you guys take it.
I mean, for us, the tablet usage is most predominant when you're watching television. So for fantasy, we see much more consumption on tablets than mobile phones. For scores or highlights, when you're out and about, you don't have access to watching TV live, but you want to kind of monitor the game, our phones and our products focused on that have more prevalence.
I'd say that certainly there's obviously UI things. It's about the scale of the screen, and it also opens up a huge range of advertising possibilities for our advertising partners on the tablets, and we are doing very interesting things there that we don't execute as in the same frame on the smaller devices. So I think that that's interesting, and also for CBS, This is obviously very early days. You hear a lot, those of you who were at CES, second screen was mentioned earlier. Second screen is very interesting from the tablet perspective because you have a lot of real estate, so you can look at Twitter streams and Facebook feeds and see what people are saying around a conversation around media. So that's been interesting for us as well. Obviously, this is a very early state of second screen, and we're not at scale yet there. So in terms of where we're seeing a lot of consumption in the traditional media apps, Michael mentioned fantasy, so CBS Sports Fantasy, CBS Sports, CBS News on the iPad is very, very popular, and we see people spending a lot of time in it once they're in it.
Yeah. Anything else to add on the tablet side, Brandon, before I go to Mark?
It's just not really a big factor for our audience right now.
Yeah.
But I think it will be, because I think that if you walk into Costco today, you'll start seeing these tablets that are under $90, and people will buy the paper towel. Oh, let me have a tablet too, and then you're going to need to be there. So.
I completely agree with what Philippe said, and one of the things that we see when we look at the usage patterns, and this is why digital has gotten so complicated with mobile and with tablets and all this stuff, because in the early days of digital, right, if you were trying to reach your audience, it was very simple. There was this computer they were attached to, et cetera. Now what we see quite clearly is people moving through the day across different devices. So we see the peak tablet usage periods being in the morning and then really heavy at night, sitting on the couch, watching TV. That phone, the share of phone usage is fairly consistent across the day because it never leaves our sight and never leaves our pocket. And we see a significant number of people, about half of tablet owners, who are using their tablet while they're watching TV. And then it becomes very interesting because that's the second screen thing, right? Well, some of them are doing something to interact with the program. A lot of people are checking Facebook and playing Angry Birds and tuning out of the program and the advertisements that are happening on TV.
I kind of want to talk about the market in regards to second screen apps, because I imagine there's some second screen startups in the audience and some investors. So, where are we in terms of second screen, and do you use a multitude of vendors for second screen, sort of different products and technologies? Is it stuff that you eventually want to develop internally yourself? I mean, we have all these different companies out there doing very interesting things from second screen, but how is that market going to evolve? Where's second screen going to fit in ultimately for you? Is it you're going to choose one vendor, you'll do it internally, there's only going to be one major player, or is it a bit hyped at the moment? Anybody can jump in.
I mean, for us, the nature of our content is live sports.
Right.
So we are inherently requested by our fans to create content that's compelling while you're watching a game, whether it's on our network or competitor networks. I mean, for example, on Sundays, we have 10 million fans using our products on mobile. And what's astonishing about that number, we don't carry any games. CBS, Fox, and NBC carry all those games. But they're still using our products as an enhancement and a companion experience to competitive networks. We don't need an audio cue or another kind of visual cue to trigger that experience for us. At the moment, we're doing everything internally.
I was going to ask you, so it's all developed internally. And Philippe?
We have external partners. CBS Connect, my colleagues, Rob Gallick, John Mantell, made a very interesting product called CBS Connect, which just launched recently on tablet on iOS. Came out of the gate with some velocity. A company called TV Plus, which is a startup in the Los Angeles area, is powering the listening component of that. But for me personally, I believe that the tablet will be primary. It won't be secondary. And I think Simon was alluding to this both in terms of shopping patterns and viewing. But I think that that device will be where people watch, and that will stream to monitors. And so this question about is a second screen as a first screen, I think will go away in the coming years.
So there are the horizontal plays like the Get Glues and the Viggles and those guys, and we do play with those guys. And then what we try to do is we try to do the vertical plays, which is we go very deep around one show or one franchise, and we do some really cool executions that are tied directly into the show. So, and we work with outside dev shops. Typically, our build cycle is like a half a year. We go, for our past apps, we've gone very deep, and we've done pretty comprehensive apps. We've done a lot of interactivity, a lot of content. One of the decisions that we made last year around the BET Awards was not to do a mobile website, and that was to try to drive people to download the app. And the app itself was, about 28, 30 megabytes or so. And we're rethinking that strategy. This year we're definitely going to do a mobile website, because I think what you do, we learned this through experience, is you lose the casual user who doesn't necessarily want to commit to a whole app, but they want to be able to engage with some of the content. And at the same time, because we're doing these big, beautiful, award-winning, 4.5 star rated apps, they take so long to build and they cost a ton of money, so it really makes your pace of innovation slow. So what we're trying to do, what we're thinking about doing right now is peeling off a lot of the content, pushing more of it to mobile web. and then focusing the apps more on like the game-changing interactive features that we and only we can come up with.
And really good segue into sort of native app versus mobile web, but I want to start that discussion with sort of development, cross-platform development, the fragmentation, all the costs involved. How are you guys dealing with that, right? So we got iOS, you got Android, now you're thinking about Windows, you're always thinking about BlackBerry, maybe now the mobile web you got to develop for as well. So how do you approach development internally, and do you do most of it internally, you use outside partners, and how are you handling the fragmentation?
So I'm going to just leap right in. I mean, I think Michael said something interesting earlier, which is like he's at a 50-50 point. And we're in a similar place. I mean, obviously the app economy and the reason we're all here is the revolution that's happened. But at the same time, there's a browser revolution happening because more and more people are browsing on these mobile devices. So there's an organic kind of trend that's happening where you don't have to download and people are just using this stuff. So we are, when we started the mobile business at CBS about 4 or 5 years ago, it was really everything. We didn't really have any resources, so everything we did was external. You know, we would make deals with partners, and we would make the terms work, and we would rising tide bring ships. Then, as we grew and we got to scale, we realized, hey, we need to bring a lot of this in house. So now we have more and more development happening in-house. Certainly on the mobile web side, we're looking at responsive designs and a consolidated CMS that ports out to multiple form factors. Developing to the mobile web is obviously faster and easier, so we like that. And at the same time, we are bringing more and more native developers in-house. So we are doing iOS development, we're doing Android development, and at the same time, because we're a global company, we find out, oh, there's a group in China that's blowing it up on the App Store in China with a car app that's being developed by a partner. So there are a really profusion of different ways that we're going about making stuff.
Our number one area for hiring right now is in app development. You know, full stop in New York and in Connecticut. And that said, we do work with probably half a dozen partners. And to get that expertise to go native is always the goal.
Mike, I always think of Connecticut as a tech center. Interesting.
Well, it is, and it's interesting though. But from a philosophical standpoint, if you wish to live 2 hours away from New York, it's actually easier to retain talent than sometimes being in New York City. So from an engineering standpoint, it is a bit of a epiphany that we've had recently. So we have pretty good talent.
Brandon, in terms of just all these platforms, how are you handling that?
Yeah, so we actually use an external provider to power a mobile website right now, and like most major publishers, we do want to bring that in-house, you know, probably over the next year or so. And you know, there's a content mismatch, there's a look and feel mismatch, there are just a whole bunch of issues that really aren't acceptable in this day and age when you have so many users who are trying to access you on their mobile devices. So we're working through that part of the strategy. And what I will say is we're having some really interesting conversation internally about responsive design versus mobile first. And actually, you know, to me, the way I view mobile first is not that you're emphasizing mobile, but that you're thinking about having very constrained real estate and wanting to create this really joyful user experience, and then taking your learnings there and taking the product that you built and then extending that backwards to the desktop. So we're having some really interesting discussions about, okay, do we just kind of take what we have online and tweak it a la responsive design? Or are we going to start from scratch on the mobile platform and maybe back into a new web experience?
One of the biggest changes, and it's obvious now, but is the expectation for fans to want to swipe, right? And when you build traditionally for the web, you have inputs that are click.
Yeah.
But the swipe metaphor, while you take it for granted, is the way for which you feel navigation on mobile.
Absolutely, swipe and gesture based, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to just touch on something Brandon said about mobile first, and Michael's company has come out and said, you know, mobile first is the philosophy. But we're a broadcast brand first. So the multi-billion-dollar broadcast company, and I don't have any illusions that we're going to be mobile first, or Leslie Moonves is going to go out and say, hey, we're a mobile company. We are, at the same time, complementary, and all of the interactive items combined puts us in the top 10 of internet destinations because we have all these sub-brands. And as we are looking to those various digital brands, I think there's more and more of a philosophy that mobile is really, really critical. More and more resources are being shifted over. But in a media company, you have this just traditional, you have a friction point, right? Because 2 years ago it was, oh, is that going to cannibalize, is mobile going to cannibalize online? And my response is, well, you can't stop a tidal wave. You know, it's happening, so don't worry.
Well, you have to be able to
cannibalization.
monetize it equally well, and you know, one of the challenges for us is that we do monetize mobile, but a lot of it is a separate infrastructure. So if mobile really started cannibalizing a lot of online traffic, we would take a hit from the sales front. So as we move to integrate, fully integrate our mobile and our web platforms, one of the key questions we're trying to answer is, how do you make sure that you're monetizing as effectively, if not more effectively, on mobile than you are online?
No, that's great. So I want to get to monetization. I first want to go back real quickly to native app versus mobile web. Mark, on the mobile web side, where are you seeing from a measurement standpoint in terms of access by consumers in regards to different?
Yeah, we see a couple of different things. There's a couple of points to make there. The first is in terms of reach, in terms of like the number of people with these devices that are doing it. It's roughly equal in terms of app and browser usage on the mobile phone. When we look at engagement, however, what we find is that 4 out of 5 minutes of time people are spending with their device, they're spending in-app, right? They're not spending in the browser. That could be, certainly is, I think the nature of the app experience has to be stickier. We see this vary by category. So I hear what Philippe's saying about, we've got this business where broadcast business, other sectors like social media, right, didn't have that starting point. So we actually see more time being spent with social media on the mobile phone as opposed to the traditional PC. On the fragmentation, well, and I know on tablets we see something a little different, which is tablets, bigger form factor, better browsing experience. We see browsing be a stickier phenomenon on tablets than it is on the phone. The fragmentation question, I'd just like to tackle that from a slightly different perspective, which is the consumer standpoint, because you hear publishers, it's a challenge, right? It takes money to reach these different platforms, particularly if you're going to go the native app direction. What needs to be realized, though, is that increasingly today, consumers are multi-platform, right? So 4 out of 10 people that have an iPad have an iPhone. That means that most people that have an iPad don't have an iPhone. They have an Android phone. They have some other type of phone. So I think if you're trying to reach your audience wherever they are, increasingly supporting those multiple platforms isn't optional. If you want to be able to make sure that you've got them throughout the day and the night and in the morning, et cetera. And that would apply, I think, as we talked about those other platforms like Windows and RIM. I think those, if you're a big brand, those have to be on the radar at least.
Right, absolutely. For me, this sort of native app versus mobile web thing, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, it isn't so much about, when I started AppNation, someone said, well, what happens, Drew, when the mobile web takes over and apps go away and then AppNation goes away? I said, well, I don't know if it's that simple. To me, I agree, it comes back to the consumer. So it isn't whether they're actually accessing the mobile web or using the native app, it's what is their actual access point. I think it's going to look and feel like an app on your little desktop or on your personal device. And what's behind there, the code, is going to be irrelevant to the consumer at the end of the day. Now, from a development standpoint, you need to know that breakdown and the trending and what do you develop for. But from a consumer standpoint, I don't think we're going to be typing in web addresses on mobile devices, are we? I mean, if it is the mobile web and I'm watching ESPN on the mobile web 2 years from now, how am I getting to that? How do I access that?
Well, I think
or how will they access
I think you've hit on the head. I think there's such a focus on the app economy. The reality is you're looking at now more than ever these abstract layers are on top. The most obvious example are alerts, but the alerts are getting more and more intelligent. So Live Tiles on Windows 8 is a phenomenal platform to have dynamic content. And similarly, you have Google Now on top of Android. You look at what the Kindle does with advertisements on top of what their Kindle Fire and Kindle products are. So I think the way you're going to get consumer attention is irrespective of mobile web or apps, but apps technically allow you to get to upstream via smart alerts.
Right. Real quick, guys, I want to talk about monetization.
Traffic comes from so many different places. Social media is obviously a huge one, and that completely bypasses the app ecosystem. Whenever we have a big show, like a big series premiere, like we had the Real Husbands of Hollywood and Second Generation Weigh-ins a couple days ago, we get crushing traffic to our digital platforms when something like that hits. So there are like certain events where you're going to get a ton of mobile web direct traffic, but yeah, we don't think apps are going away right away. We're placing our bets on apps, and we're looking to go deeper in the future.
So, Brandon, when folks are coming into that broadcast premiere, as you were just describing via social media, are you deep linking out of all that social media into your mobile optimized experience? Because I'm finding sometimes that that's kind of hard to corral. Like things are coming in, and things that I would want to have linked to mobile are sometimes not.
Yeah, so when we do this full mobile web integration, one of the problems that we have to solve for is video, because right now we use a third-party video transcoding and delivery platform for mobile, and it takes anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes for once a video gets published to get transcoded and then to be available. And in that time period, because we're living in this day and age of Twitter, where the moment that you have a piece of content, you tweet it out. So if we tweet it out before that content is ready, then the user's going to hit a link that doesn't work. So we do have some issues like that we're working through.
I wish we could talk another 5 minutes on native app mobile web. We've got a couple minutes here, so I want to talk about monetization. We can go down the line, jump in. What's working in regards to mobile monetization? Smartphones, tablets, what have you?
So we're fairly screens agnostic. We literally sell the sponsorships across all media, including magazines. And display and video are the mainstream events. But if you look at mobile, what's most exciting for us is mobile commerce. If you ask the average American what's mobile commerce, they'll answer a food truck. So it's not exactly intuitive, but the reality is there's an expectation to have some kind of redeemable event on mobile. You see Facebook killing it with either downloads of installs of apps and or gift certificates that are redeemable sent to your email. It's just that elegant. So I think mobile-oriented commerce is the budgets to watch for mobile.
Briefly, we are obviously an advertising-driven business. We have an army of salespeople, so we sell a lot of sponsorships. And they are not, some of them are cross-platform, on air, online, mobile, and others are mobile unique. Some of them are location-specific. We are seeing a lot of luck with rich media. And video is obviously paramount, huge, big CPMs, great growth there, and the more video content we put out on these devices, the better we'll continue to do.
I'd say in terms of dollar amount, it's probably the standard 320 by 50 that generates the most mobile ad revenue for us, but right behind that are our custom native ad units. So we have a home screen tile that we built custom on the home screen of the 106 and Park app, which when you tap on it, it opens up to a full screen interstitial, and we sell a lot of that. And then we also run barcodes in show that people can use the app to scan, and we brand those barcodes and we promote it in the app. So those actually have gotten a lot of traction. We feel like it, the agencies get excited because it's something different, the brands like it, but the bread and butter is still for us in terms of, just pure revenue.
The 320,
the standard ad units.
Quickly, 10 seconds or less, sort of role of ad networks in your sales effort on mobile.
We don't use them.
They're a significant component of our overall picture, both online and mobile. I don't want to go into the percentages, but we're largely direct sale. But we do have a vital third-party network business, as I mentioned, both online and mobile.
Brandon, quickly.
I've been working with them for years, but we've been oversold now through our direct sales for the last few months. So haven't really been able to. I guess that's a good thing.
Great. Yeah. We're going to wrap with, so 2013, again, we'll have to do it real quick because I'm actually a little bit over right now. We'll start with you, Michael. 2013 and sort of mobile tablet apps is the year of what?
I think you're going to continue to see it be the year of tablets. Advertising, I think, is a core business model across these mobile devices. And as Michael said, commerce, man, people are using it. 1 out of every 10 e-commerce dollars is happening on mobile.
Yeah.
It's just only going to get bigger.
Brandon, year of what?
More disruptive commerce.
More disruptive commerce,
Year of marrying big data to hyper-targeting in mobile. The personalization, the dream of personalized advertising actually happening. We've been told for years, the phone is very personal, but we haven't necessarily seen that translated yet into how advertising is displayed.
Michael, final word?
Well, to echo Mark's facts and figures, I think the year of synergy. So the expectation that you'll have something in the home, at work, and on the road, and they all connect to one another.
That's great. Well, I wish we had more time. Big round of applause for the panelists here.
Thank you, Drew.